All right, let's get this pinball rolling. Welcome to Pinball Heroes Q&A with your International Challenge Masters. I'm Gemma,
And I am Adam.
and we're your International Challenge Masters for Pinball Heroes. We're going to talk a bit through our published clarifications, some challenge highlights, and hopefully answer a few of your questions. I'll
All right,
flip it over to Adam.
great. Thanks, Gemma. The first published clarification that we want to talk about is about the pinball. So as the clarification on your screen states, we will be using a size 3 soccer ball with the dimensions listed on the screen. The picture that's provided is an example of the type of ball that we might be using at the tournament.
Adam, what's the air pressure going to be in that pinball or soccer ball?
That's a great question, Gemma. We won't actually be measuring the air pressure in PSI of the ball, but they will be reasonably inflated so that the ball can bounce. The ball will also be uh, inflated to the dimensions that are listed in the challenge.
Great. And when will the team get the pinball?
We will be handing the pinball to the team when they are in the launch area.
Excellent. Thanks, Adam. The next published clarification we want to talk about is regarding putting the machine modules inside the pinball playfield. We want to make sure that all the teams put the machine modules and any other components of their pinball system within the pinball playfield. That's the 8x16 taped lines on the floor. These items must be within the vertical planes of those lines. In addition, anytime the pinball touches or interacts with any items that's part of the pinball system, that must be within the pinball playfield. Extension cords are the only exception to that. Extension cords may be used to power any of the components of the pinball system, but they may not direct the pinball.
Hey, Gemma, we've got a question for you. Can a team member use a stick to touch the ball?
Team members may use sticks to touch the ball. The only thing there is that they themselves or any of their clothing may not touch the ball. The team member may also be outside of the pinball playfield as long as the stick is fully within the pinball playfield.
And another similar question. Can the team member be outside of the pinball playfield and operate the machine module?
Absolutely. Team members may be outside the pinball playfield while they're working with the machine module, while they're operating the machine module. They may also be inside the playfield. The big thing is that the machine module must be completely within the playfield. Also, keep in mind the team member may not touch the pinball with themselves or with anything they're wearing while the pinball is in an active pinball round. I'll launch over to you, Adam, for the next published clarification.
Great, thanks, Gemma. Our third published clarification is talking about one of the end conditions for a pinball round. The original challenge stated that the round would end when the pinball crossed the tape line to exit the playfield. And we added that if the ball touches anything that is not fully within the boundaries of the pinball playfield, that also ends the round. Also a reminder that extension cords are not part of this rule if they are used only to power things within the pinball playfield.
All right, great. Thanks, Adam. I think we'll go ahead and talk about some challenge highlights. So first, for a quick overview, just a few reminders here. Your team may not modify the pinball in any way. We want to make sure that all three machine modules and all of the components are completely within the taped lines of the tournament provided pinball playfield. And then we want to complete at least one pinball round for as long as possible, up to 2 minutes. Teams may attempt as many pinball rounds as they would like during their 8-minute presentation.
The next part of the challenge we want to highlight are your machine modules. The challenge states that you need to build 3 of them that are all different types. One of those types must come from table 1, and the other one must come from table 2. Your third type can come from either table 1 or table 2. You cannot make up your own and have it be one of the 3 that are counted for scoring. Another thing to note about our machine modules is that the technical methods used by each machine module have to be different. If the technical methods are too similar, that might affect your scoring for technical design of the machine modules. Also, these technical methods need to be independent of each other, and one machine module cannot initiate another machine module. And also remember, a team member cannot be part of the machine module. However, they can operate, power, or otherwise interact with them.
And now we'll talk a little bit about the pinball round. During the presentation, we asked teams to complete at least one pinball round. For this challenge, a pinball round is an attempt to move the pinball through the pinball system and interact with the machine modules and any other components. Your team's going to earn points for the length of the pinball round up to 2 minutes. Again, you can attempt to do a pinball round, as many pinball rounds as you would like. A really important thing to highlight here is that before the pinball round begins, the pinball must be completely outside the taped lines of the pinball playfield. The pinball round then begins when the pinball crosses the taped line into the pinball playfield.
Not to spring this on you, Gemma, but let's go over this again. When does a pinball round begin?
That's a great question. So the pinball round begins as soon as it enters the pinball playfield. That's as soon as it crosses that taped line that's on the tournament floor. Keep in mind that is not when the pinball starts interacting with the pinball system. So if the pinball system is a little bit away from the pinball playfield line, it's going to have to move from outside the pinball playfield inside the pinball playfield. That's when it starts, and then it can start interacting with the pinball system. And then we'll talk a little bit about how pinball rounds will end. So the pinball round ends when any of these 4 conditions are met. So first, if it crosses the taped line to exit the pinball playfield, or if it touches anything that's not fully within the boundaries of the pinball playfield. Keep in mind, extension cords are exempt from this if they're being used to power the pinball system. The pinball round will also end if the pinball stops and is no longer able to move through or interact with the pinball system. Pinball rounds end if a team member or anything a team member is wearing touches the pinball, or when the 8-minute presentation time ends. We'd like to remind you that the appraisers will not announce or tell the team members the duration of the pinball round. You can attempt as many rounds as you would like during the presentation, and only the longest round will be attempted.
So, Gemma, what happens if a team member carries the pinball into the pinball playfield?
So if a team member carries the pinball into the pinball playfield, so that would be them holding the ball as it crosses the line. What would happen then is the ball crosses the line into the playfield, but since the team member is touching it as soon as it gets into the playfield, that means that the pinball round also ends. So therefore, the pinball may not be touching anything as it enters the pinball playfield. That includes things that you may use, say, to launch the pinball. If the pinball is being launched with something, that must not be touching the pinball as it enters the pinball playfield. So I'll flip it over to you, Adam, to talk a little bit more about risk.
All right, risk is one of the areas where you're going to be scored in this year's challenge. You will earn points for the risk of your pinball system and the movement of the pinball within the system. Risk taking is going to be more effective when the pinball system itself and the movement is designed in a novel way, that is some way that is new and creative. It extends beyond just the minimum requirements and that it's more complex or difficult than is required. Some ways that you can demonstrate this risk in a pinball system is how the pinball system is set up, the distance between your machine modules or other components, and how much the machine modules or other components are connected to each other. For the pinball's movement, the speed of the pinball's movement could contribute to risk. How much team member interaction is necessary to keep the pinball moving throughout the pinball system, or the complexity of the way that the machine modules are initiated by the pinball.
Great, thanks. The next thing we wanted to just highlight for you is that we can't wait to hear your stories about heroes going on extraordinary missions. And then we're really excited to see your team choice elements. Keep in mind, team choice elements are two creations that the team creates that is something that is not a specific item also scored in the central challenge that's already being evaluated.
Congratulations to all the teams who flipped their way here to Global Finals 2024.
We can't wait to see you in Kansas City.